Hey guys, how are you? Now I'm going to talk about a very important subject or very interesting subject about loneliness. This image in the background is quite appropriate for this subject. So, loneliness usually is looked as something that is usually bad things, being alone. What can you do when you are alone? It's very interesting to note that two very smart, important people talked about loneliness or being alone and looked at it in a very positive way, even though that as the image you see right over here, quite lonely to be here alone in front of the sea. But yet, two great minds talked about loneliness. One is Nikola Tesla, the one that was very much lonely but was a genius and made a ton of contributions by his inventions. And the second one is the great physicist, which is named Einstein, Albert Einstein. So let's see the quotes of the two of them talking about loneliness. Let's start by Nikola Tesla quote that says that be alone. That is the secret of invention. Let's see this quote. And you can see and read it by yourself that this is Nikola Tesla. And he says, be alone. That is the secret of invention. Be alone, that is when ideas are born. And there is even a more full quote for this. Full quote that says that you don't need a big laboratory in order to think, but just be alone. So the quote reads, the mind is sharper and keener in seclusion and uninterrupted solitude. No big laboratory is needed in which to think. Originally thrive in seclusion free of outside influences beating upon up to cripple the creative mind. Be alone. That is the secret of invention. Be alone. That is when ideas are born. That is why many of the earthly miracles have had their genesis in humble surroundings. Namely, Nikola Tesla talks deeply about the importance of being alone. That is very interesting thinking about the life of Nikola Tesla. Life that was by a lot of inventions. Nikola Tesla is very known as mechanical and electrical engineer. And if you see his Wikipedia page, you will see that he was a mechanical and electrical engineer that made a ton of contributions by his inventions. But even though he made a ton of inventions, there was something, I don't know if to say sad, about his life. He many times said that uh, books were his great friends. He said something like, above all, books I like the best. Now we see Tesla. Of all things, I like books best. And maybe this image just combine those two statements, those two quotes, his love of reading, learning and reading books, and his solitude, because being alone was his secret to invention. Yet he ended his life in a very poor apartment, living lonely in a hotel. Nikola Tesla's last moments were quite sad. You can see this poor little guy living in a hotel room alone. Is this what he wants? I don't know. The next one is Albert Einstein talking about being a loner. And there is a famous quote that says that be a loner. That gives you time to wonder, to search for the truth. Have a holy curiosity, make your life worth living. This was the quote for Albert Einstein. And he also, maybe like Nikola Tesla, thought that being a loner give you something, give you space to be able to search for something. And maybe search is another name for invention. The one who walks alone is likely to find himself in places no one has ever been. So those two great minds talked about being alone. I think there is also a quote from Steve Jobs about loneliness, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure that if you want to walk fast, walk alone. But if you want to walk far, walk together. This quote said Steve Jobs, namely he was, I don't know if to say against loneliness, but if you want to walk far, walk together. So he was, as he was an entrepreneur and of course established Apple, he was someone that worked in a group, maybe contrary to Einstein and Nikola Tesla. Both were quite alone. So loneliness is a gift or a curse. This is a very interesting subject, but what is important is to talk about or talk to those who are alone, because those who are alone maybe can't even find themselves not alone. And maybe it's important for them to remember that there are great minds that was very for being a loneliness, said that even though you are alone, there are great opportunities that lie with this situation. So, loneliness, a curse or a blessing? This was the subject of this video. Thank you very much.